So when the first leaks and rumors of this ultra-thin iPhone started circulating and coming about, I wasn't really sure what to expect from it or how to feel about it because I didn't really know or thought that I wanted such a thin iPhone. But as more leaks and rumors have come out, I still don't really get it and I don't know how Apple's gonna market it, but it's got me intrigued and it's probably the most excited I've been for an iPhone in a very long time because new form factor, new rear to it, new screen display, new internals, and it's just something new that Apple hasn't done in a little while. So without further ado, let's talk about all the new things that have come out because the iPhone 17 Air is shaping up to be one of Apple's best in the recent years. Let's get into it. So just to recap everybody in case they're unaware, the iPhone 17 lineup will get shaken up a bit this year in terms of removing a current iPhone model, which is going to be the Plus version, and then aggregating or adding a brand new model, which is going to be the 17 Air model. And again, they're just replacing it because I guess of screen size and that kind of thing, but in terms of what the model does, what it's there for, I think it's going to be a completely different selling point and a completely different marketing scheme, whereas the Plus was just kind of a watered down version of, again, the Pro Max version, where it was the cheapest way to get the largest screen on an iPhone, whereas the 17 Air is going to be a much different selling point in terms of thinness, form factor, single camera array, and a bunch of other things that we're going to touch on. But again, the headliner here is going to be all about the design and the build, and I think this is going to be very similar in terms of how Apple kind of announced their iPhone 10 way back in the day. I believe now it's 6-7 years old now at this point. When the iPhone 10 was announced, Apple had their main line of iPhones already. You know, they were going with the double side, so they had their regular version and their Plus version, and at that time, I believe it was the iPhone 8 and then the iPhone 8 Plus, and then after that fact, they released the iPhone 10. Now, the iPhone 10 was a much higher price point. It was this ultra premium version. It removed Touch ID, it went down to Face ID, it had the perfect rounded edges, the symmetrical bezels all around, and again, the iPhone 10 was one of the best iPhones that had ever come out to that point, in my opinion, because of everything that it showed off from a hardware perspective and how it was pushing everything from a hardware perspective moving forward. And again, we saw that the iPhone 10 basically bred life into the rest of the iPhone lineup moving forward because again, the current lineup of iPhones is basically just an iPhone 10, just 6-7 years newer. And I do think that's what's going to happen with the 17 Air. I don't think it's going to be the highest price version of the iPhone. I do think it's going to fit between the regular iPhone 17 and then as well as the iPhone 17 Pro from a price point perspective. I don't know, maybe $1,000, but I do think that it's going to be the breeding ground to newer iPhones in terms of what the form factor, especially from a design quality and thinness standpoint, is going to be moving forward. So as of right now, we know that this thing is going to be 30% thinner than the current iPhone 16 Pro. It's also going to have a 6.6-inch display diagonally at only 5.5 millimeters thick. For reference, if you do have an M4 iPad Pro, the larger version, that's 5.1 millimeters in thickness, and then the 11-inch version is 5.4 millimeters in thickness. So these devices are ultra thin, and it's something that I'm very excited for because that extra thinness is definitely going to help out from just a usability standpoint and it being a lot more comfortable in the hand. Because if you look at the 16 Pro Max, that thing is honestly pretty heavy and it is a chonker. Some other tidbits about the design, if you look at the rear of it, it's going to have this kind of visor, but only one single camera. It's going to be that 48 megapixel shooter that Apple's been using over the last new iPhones, and I'm sure the main sensor is going to be more than enough to handle most of the things you want to do. It'll still be great at video. It'll probably still be marketed as a 2-in-1 camera, similar as the iPhone 16e was. But again, it will only have one camera, so no ultra wide, and then also no telephoto, which is something to consider if you are in the market to have the best camera. The best camera is still going to be in the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max moving forward, but I could see it moving eventually where maybe the iPhone 18 or 19 Air will be the greatest. It'll be like the iPhone 19 Air Pro Max or something at the end of the day, but we'll get there when we get there. But for now, that's what it looks like when it comes to the iPhone 17 Air. But of course, the iPhone 17 Air is that thin for a reason. It's going to come at a cost in terms of battery life. I do think will take a hit moving forward, although Apple's doing a lot of things to mitigate that by possibly including the C1 chip modem in there, which is introduced with the 16e. The new chipset will probably be even more efficient from a battery standpoint because you might have noticed that Apple's gone for a battery efficiency standpoint in terms of improvement gains from battery life because I think they know that they were going to go down in size from a thickness standpoint to make this phone. So battery life should still last you all day, ideally, but from a size standpoint, the battery will be smaller compared to all the other iPhones. And then we are getting news that this is going to breathe life to a comeback story in terms of a battery case, which Apple used to make. I remember Apple made that battery case with that silicone finish where you actually put your iPhone in the case itself. Then of course MagSafe came around and Apple made their MagSafe battery pack, but Apple will be creating something to mitigate that battery loss on the iPhone 17 Air, which, you know, some people might say like, why not just make it thicker at that point? But I think Apple's trying to flex their muscles from a design standpoint here, and most people are usually at home or working at an office or at a desk where they can plug in whenever, so that shouldn't be an issue. But if you are on the go and you do need to have battery life, they'll probably have a first-party battery case, which will probably be pretty expensive, or some sort of MagSafe battery pack, which will fit very well with the aesthetic of the new iPhone. And of course, that visor look is all but confirmed with some leaks that we got in terms of the cases that manufacturers are already making, with that visor look going across the entire top portion of the iPhone. But now Apple's hedging their bet a little bit here because it is being reported that as of right now, Apple's only allocating about 10% of their iPhone production for the iPhone 17 lineup to the 17 Air. And of course, Apple's going to do this because they're not sure how it's going to sell. They did something very similar with the iPhone mini when it first came out, and also with the iPhone Pluses when the iPhone Plus replaced the iPhone minis. But Apple's going to allocate only about 10% to see exactly what this is going to look like moving forward. Because again, I'm very curious what the price point is going to be, because normally these jumps in design from a manufacturing standpoint would increase the cost. But from an overall hardware perspective, it's not going to be the latest and greatest for a camera standpoint, probably from a screen tech standpoint, because that is reserved for the Pro and Pro Max models. So I don't really know where this is going to fit from a price point standpoint. But I also don't see them only charging an extra $100 over the regular iPhone. So let's see exactly where they price it, how they market it, who they market this towards, and if this is going to be kind of like a fashion symbol versus an actual tech product. And like I insinuated earlier in this video, Apple's already being reported to be working on a larger iPhone model for years to come, because I do think that this is going to be the next iPhone 10 version, whereas this iPhone 17 Air is going to be the stepping stone for the next generation of iPhones moving forward from a thinness standpoint, from a hardware standpoint, and everything is going to be fitting into this new design language. Albeit, it's still a rectangular slab, but what they're doing internally to make this all fit is probably what is going to happen moving forward. And that's why this new larger iPhone 18 or 19 Air with a 6.9-inch display will probably replace something like the 18 Pro Max in years to come. So definitely taking that into account, that Apple is hedging their bet early on, but they are working on larger models moving forward already. So I do think the iPhone 17 Air is going to be the design language of iPhones for the next 5 to 10 years. So again, like I said in the beginning, I am extremely excited, or I guess extremely curious as to what this iPhone 17 Air is going to look like, be like, function like, be marketed like, and who this is ultimately going to be for, because for somebody like myself who uses the Pro Max iPhone and the camera array as their main actual camera with this YouTube setup, I would not want to take a kind of downturn in terms of camera quality just to have a thinner phone. So I'm curious to know who would want to benefit from this phone versus somebody who would maybe spend the same amount or maybe just a little bit more for a Pro Max level phone and things of that. That'll probably give you better battery life, better cameras, more cameras, and the screen tech will probably be a little bit better as well. So that's all remains yet to be seen, but leave a comment down below what you think. Is the iPhone 17 Air something that you would want to get into? What kind of trade-offs are you willing to sacrifice when it comes to battery life and performance just to have a thinner overall form factor? Always curious to discuss that in the comments down below, but if you did make it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you want to watch more videos like this one, definitely check out one of these videos right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everybody.